So I know I've already gotten into the habit of introducing my videos in a millennial man yells at cloud kind of way, so today we're going to do something a little different and start by talking about a time that I wasn't alive for. The mid-20th century gave rise to what you might have heard of as the pulp era, so named because manufacturers used to make cheap paper out of recycled wood pulp compressed into sheets and printed comics and paperbacks on them. Due to the, ephemeral nature of that form of print media, it catered to stories that could be churned out quickly, starring characters that could be claw-machined from scenario to scenario. The most common form of this was westerns, where you could walk out of a dime store with a fistful of books for less than $1. One of the most successful creators of the time was Edgar Rice Burroughs. He created Tarzan and John Carter, both of which you've probably heard of. What you might not have heard was that Burroughs was astonishingly racist and hardcore into eugenics. I'll be keeping an eye out for him on my next trip to hell. Most pulp characters faded into obscurity as the 20th century trucked on, but a few have stuck around in various forms. I mentioned Burroughs and Tarzan because the origins of today's subject are tied, at least in part, to the Jungle Man. Several of the guys who worked on serialized Tarzan comics in the 20s and 30s are involved in this he said tangle of who exactly came up with Turok, so I can't really ascribe credit to any one person, from what I can find at least. Turok's early adventures as a Western publishing character were mostly in line with pulp expectations at the time, and he had a dedicated comic on and off through the 80s. In the 90s, though, Turok wound up in the hands of Valiant Comics, who shaved off the lingering bits of the pulp era and revamped the character in the most 90s way possible. Valiant was big into the idea that video games could be a way to market their properties and partnered with Acclaim Entertainment to make that a reality. Most of these are duds from what I know, though I've heard a few people hype up the Iron Man Exo Manowar crossover. Which brings us to the one I have played. I friggin' love Turok. One of my earliest gaming memories is going to my cousin's house and trying out all the cartridges they had for their N64. Imagine being 7 years old and seeing this box art. Sure, Talset looks a bit blocky, but there's a ton of detail in his armor, this winking light on his knife, the density of the dinosaur scales. This is top tier eye-catch stuff. And then you boot it up and see a friggin' raptor loom out of this foggy, otherworldly jungle within the first minute. The game on the N64 is kind of a miracle. The cartridges could only hold 8 megabytes of data, so the developers at Acclaim subsidiary Iguana Entertainment had to get creative. They were making a game in 1996 with real-time lighting, particle effects, and motion-captured animations, and had to cram it onto something that couldn't even hold some of the source animations that I have saved to a certain folder on my hard drive. They wound up compressing the hell out of the music and graphics and used heavy environmental fog to mask environments to reduce the load on the N64's RAM. Predating that trick's use in the original Silent Hill by 2 years, though Silent Hill utilized it way better. Nowadays, we have access to an excellent updated version from Night Dive Studios, which was actually the first Night Dive release that I played. It kickstarted my love affair with them and all their efforts to preserve older games. Night Dive Turok has some beta content restored, some bug fixes, and general quality of life enhancement. It's very much the definitive way to play the game. I'm not going to pretend that Turok is some kind of 10 out of 10 undisputed, forgotten masterpiece. It definitely has some issues we'll talk about, but it's a game I find myself returning to every so often. It's got a lot of character, and that goes a long way with me. And also, dinosaurs. So there's a bit more to the plot of Turok Dinosaur Hunter than just hunting dinosaurs. Dinosaur hunting is actually more of an incidental activity in this game, to be honest. Turok is a mantle, the current holder being our player vehicle Talset here, as he will remind you every time you collect enough of these golden Doritos and get an extra life.
I am Turok.
The Turok's job is to maintain the balance between our world and a dimension called the Lost Lands, a place where time is distorted and it all intersects with some giga-brained cosmic entities. The Lost Lands dimension is currently under siege by this guy, the Campaigner. He's trying to find a supremely powerful ancient weapon called the Chronoscepter, which was broken into pieces some indeterminate amount of time ago, to keep nefarious people from getting their hands on it in anticipation of this exact scenario. The Campaigner's also been doing some funny things to the local wildlife, but we'll get to that. Turok plays like a hybrid of Doom and classic Tomb Raider, with a dash of Proto-Unreal added before returning to the oven and a little dusting of Hexen on top before serving. There's only 8 levels, but they're all fairly long and involved. The first one is very well paced and designed, structured in a way that communicates all the essential information about what's expected of you. There's a focus on exploration more than most other old school shooters, so it's important to get the hang of running, platforming, swimming, and climbing, yes, climbing, as soon as you can. The movement speed is solid, though I do wish Talset moved just a smidge faster. He's got mad ups, though. Put this man in a room with one of those gymnast ladies who can crush watermelons with their thighs, we'll have fruit salad in no time. I find this game's arsenal a little lacking compared to the hardware you get in the sequels. It's not bad, just a little bland. The knife actually gets you pretty far in the early game. These mook soldiers with melee weapons and rifles go down with one swing. You'll want to do this to conserve ammo later. The first pistol is either right out in the open or in the game's first secret just off the beaten path. It is a pistol. Not much to really say about it, though I question the efficacy of shooting on the run with how hard it weeble wobbles back and forth. As I mentioned earlier, you round a corner and the first dinosaur is just there, bam. Past him and a few more mooks, you get your shotgun. It is a shotgun. Firing sound is a little weak, but it's got good damage and a deceptively long range. In this modern night dive port, you can scroll through the weapons with the mouse wheel, but they also have keybinds. Years of FPS gaming have conditioned me to press 2 for pistol and 3 for shotgun, because that's just the natural order of things. Not so here. 2 is the hotkey for your bow, which is the first weapon that has some personality. I think headshots do somewhat matter, I'm not entirely sure, but you should really only use this for the mook soldiers. The late game enemies take much more punishment. So that's when you break out the exploding arrows. Or excuse me, tech arrows. Nope, not my joke to make. Now that I'm running and gunning, I'm starting to hit the main objectives. Every level in Turok contains a few key items. The majority of them are, well, keys, these chunky early 3D stones that Tal Set looks like he's about to take a bite out of whenever you pick one up. There's 6 in this first level, all the subsequent levels have 3 apiece. Each level also has a piece of the Chronoceptor squirreled away somewhere. I don't think the Chronoceptor is mandatory to beat the game, but I've also never taken on the final boss without it, so... This first level is generous and places all the key items pretty much right smack in your path. At the end of it, you're dumped into the game's level warp hub, where you slot the keys home to open up portals to the rest of the game. I have enough keys to access either the jungle or the ancient city from the start, but I always just stick with the numbered level order. The jungle isn't all that visually distinct from the opening level, but the game is done holding your hand at this point. There's more enemies running around and, more importantly, lots more bottomless pits to potentially fall into. There's no guardrails or invisible walls to be found here, don't go strafing off the edge to avoid a dinosaur. I pick up the last basic bagel weapon here, the assault rifle, which pulls from the same ammo pool as the pistol and fires in 3-round bursts. Again, not bad, actually pretty effective, just kinda boring. You'll also find explosive shells for the shotgun here, which are best saved for, well, remember what I said a minute ago about the campaigner doing funny stuff to the local wildlife? And this is one of the tamer mutants. Running around here, I jump into the, I guess you could call them bonus stages. There's 2 in each level, each a short platforming challenge. Getting to the end, that's either a big health or some special ammo, sometimes both. You can fail them as many times as needed, but can only collect the reward once.
Hey, wanna hear the most annoying sound in the world?
I breeze through the jungle and grab all the keys without needing to backtrack. The Chronoceptor piece is hidden past a few teleports and a leap of faith down onto this ledge here. One of Turok's favorite tricks is hiding secret paths off the edges of sheer cliffs, paths that are sometimes necessary to find the mandatory keys for progression. Stick your nose over the edges of the levels, you'll be surprised what you find. The ancient city is where the game starts to pick up for me. There's some heavy atmosphere with the fog and the music. The campaigner's troops are now mixed in with capital A, capital W ancient warriors, these guys wielding blowguns or spears, who somehow take more damage from my weapons before going down than the armored soldiers. I methodically clear out the courtyards before I see this guy descending from the heavens, borne down on the light of God. And then, I remember. Yep, we're playing with Doom Nightmare difficulty rules. I don't know what logic directs how often the enemies respawn or where, but they do. And it's important to remember this so you don't waste all your resources. Only the lower tier enemies respawn, and namely the Mook soldiers, but also the ancient warriors and the raptors. They still drop health and ammo on death, but it's mainly bullets and occasionally shotgun shells, so don't waste any of your heavy-duty ammo on them. Save your blast arrows and explosive shells for the big hench frog enemies, or these cyborg guys armed with plasma rifles that start popping up. The cyborgs are probably the biggest threat at this point in the game. They hammer me with steady, accurate shots so long as I'm in their line of sight. Good thing you also pick up the auto shotgun in this level. It reminds me a bit of the riot gun in classic Shadow Warrior, but full auto rather than burst fire. You can feed either type of shotgun shell into it, though I try to avoid mag dumping the explosive shells because those are precious and shouldn't be shot willy-nilly. Good weapon, dependable, never obsolete. Turok isn't that difficult of a game, at least at first. I imagine it was harder on the N64 when you had to fumble with this endearing but confounding piece of hardware. Turok came out like 2 months before GoldenEye, a game that has beautiful auto-aim to compensate nicely for the N64's single analog stick. Dinosaur Hunter says, "Screw you, swivel in the right direction and center that screen." Mouse and keyboard makes things buttery smooth and lets me rampage through the enemies like an Athabascan John Wick. There is a hard mode baked into the game, and Night Dive added an additional, even harder difficulty for those who like their retro shooters extra spicy, but I'm not a fan of it because it compounds enemy health values like crazy. The added health isn't a huge problem when it comes to the early game, but gets a little ridiculous later when a single enemy can eat your entire stock of explosive shells. One other advantage of playing mouse and keyboard is that you can sequence break, like I do here by jumping off the geometry and getting up to a ledge that normally requires taking a teleporter inside the temple. It lets me skip right to this final temple section where we square up with the first boss, the Long Hunter. The fight starts with him summoning SUVs to try to run you over, and, well... yeah, this fight was definitely designed around the original hardware limitations. Bumping this guy off gets me his plasma rifle, which I already have a full stack of ammo for from fighting the cyborgs. I use it to do another lap through the level because in sequence breaking I missed a key and the chronoceptor piece. Getting the key is easy. The super weapon piece... oh, you motherfucker! Honestly, that guy jumping down in front of me is a metaphor for where the game's at, because all the forward momentum that's been building is about to hit a wall. Turok's 4th and 5th levels are complete vibe killers, and I wouldn't blame anyone who dropped the game after being subjected to them. Each of these 2 levels alone takes twice the time as any of the prior ones. The Ruins is a miserable time, and not just because I cranked the difficulty up for a minute to illustrate what I was talking about a minute ago. Look at how much punishment this spiny bastard eats. Yeah, no thank you. Even back on normal difficulty, the shaman enemies introduced in this level can take a beating. They have 2 attacks, an orange fireball that's a direct shot and a blue one that homes in on you. Both hit hard. The shamans become a frequent obstacle from here on out, usually acting as living switches where icing them causes doors and gates to open. A great way to do that is to make use of the next weapon you pick up here, the minigun. It kills things good, but I don't know if I love or hate the firing sound. The Ruins gimmick is a whole bunch of teleporter nonsense. These glowing green squares will send you to a variety of fun destinations as you chase down all the keys. Unlike the prior levels where the map design looped back on itself in a circuit, the Ruins funnels me down a singular pathway with keys at the end, then has me backtrack to forks in the path to go to the next one. I guess it's a more natural reflection of the deep misty canyon environment they were going for, but it's tedious and annoying to navigate, especially this last area here. Only one of the teleporters in this circle leads to where I need to go, this one right here. The others all dump you in a lava pit. Once you take the correct one though, you wind up in this underground area, which is where the real fun starts, and I say that sarcastically even though I do trip through a secret wall and pick up an early grenade launcher. Now, down here are some hardy enemies and fire jet traps to slow your progress. Up past these raising platforms is the wooden pillar room. Hope you're used to the jumping in the game by now, because if you fall, you have to trek all the way back through this dungeon to get back to the start and try again. Strafe jumping goes a long way here.
Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
The teleporter at the end dumps you back out way earlier in the level in front of the exit. Ah, goddammit, I forgot the Chronoscepter piece. Okay, just gotta navigate back to the exit and fuck! Okay, now I'm out, just gotta... Wait, where's the last key? Down a side path near the very beginning of the level. Alright, game! Bad level, don't like it. The next one's worse. The catacombs is what gets spat out if you decide to put all the worst, most clunky aspects of 90s FPS design into a blender. I hope you like running through gray-brown stone corridors accented with jungle plants for the better part of an hour, because that's what this level is. Just look at this. I swear to you, these are two different sections of the level. Can you tell the difference? Because I played this a bunch of times, have it recorded, and I still couldn't tell you exactly where I am at either point. The real tooth grinder is a little quirk of environment design that's present here and here alone. See these little semicircular culvert-looking things that look like they go up about as high as Talset's shins? You can crawl through them. Yes, you can apparently fit this beefy slab of Native American man muscle inside a tunnel that looks small enough that a mouse would call it a tight squeeze. You have to shimmy through these to get the Chronoscepter piece, and... So, what's everyone been listening to lately? I really enjoyed the albums Havakrunu and Arab Altor put out this year. I'm a sucker for Bathory Core. Tooth and Nail by Dorman Ordeal is a beast, and you're definitely going to see it on all the year-end lists. No, I'm not cutting away from this. If I had to experience it, so do you all. There's no teleporter at the end of this, by the way. You have to crawl all the way back. After this, we still have to hunt down all the keys, and I always get lost in these tunnels because they all look the fucking same.
Turok.
Then I get to the end of the level and accidentally take a path that's there for backtracking rather than the path forward to the boss when I don't need to, so I have to march all the way back through the level. God damn it! I vent my frustration into the bug boss for the final key here. Let me out! The treetop village sets things right, back to the high speed running and gunning through an interesting environment. There's a cool flow to this level. You start on some misty cliffs and have to navigate to where you can actually platform up to the village, and wait, does that dinosaur have cannons on its back? Oh yeah, now we're talking. There's 2 more pieces of hardware to find in this level. First is the grenade launcher, which players of the Demo Man and TF2 will feel right at home with. Grenades fire in arcs, bounce off walls, and explode after a delay. Direct impacts on enemies cause immediate explosions. Good for clusters of weak enemies or for 2 hitting some of the stronger ones. Absolutely essential weapon for the last third of the game. I also get a real kick out of the sound design of it. The second is the alien weapon, which pulls from your plasma ammo to fire a green energy ball that explodes after a delay. I like this thing in principle, but the damage it puts out feels inconsistent, somehow managing to be overkill for mook enemies, but chip damage against the beefier threats that are becoming more and more common. Oh hey buddy, don't mind me. The human enemies are mostly gone now unless you take a trip back to the earlier levels to resupply off their ammo drops. It's all ancient warriors and cyborgs up here. This level doesn't make me hunt too hard for the keys, the last one is right smack in your pathway to the exit teleporter. Don't immediately jump in the exit though, go past it and look down. Come on Iguana, that's just mean. The penultimate level is called The Lost Lands, which is odd because I thought we were already in the Lost Lands, but whatever. Right out the first room you'll run into a cyborg raptor, oh hell yes. This level swaps out all the forests and jungles for lava and barren wasteland. Some real tough customers are introduced in this level, like these cyborgs riding on Triceratops and these Gundams near the end. Power weapons are a must from here on out, and you get the last 2 here. You may have found some rocket ammo pickups prior to this and wondered why the game is so generous by giving you 4 per pickup. Well, it's because the launcher you get in the Lost Lands fires 4 at once. Zero complaints about this thing. You need this kind of firepower to deal with what the game's tossing at you now. And speaking of firepower, you can also find the game's BFG in this little nook here. It's magnificent. There's only 2 keys to find here, but I have to bitch about the placement of the Chronoscepter piece. There's this area near the middle of the level that requires you to platform up these pillars to progress, and some nooks around containing dead ends with lava pools that have some supplies. However, you have to basically be psychic to know that this specific pool isn't actually lava, and you can swim in it. And at the end of its winding path is the Chronoscepter piece. Again, Iguana, that's just mean. The ending segment of the level switches gears environment-wise as you shoot through this tech base to the final key in the exit teleporter. I do a quick lap of a few of the early levels to restock my bullets, shells, and grenades because they drop from the basic human enemies rather frequently, before heading to the elevator to the final confrontation. Couldn't get another pass on that one maybe, guys? Also, make sure you take a piss break and refill your beverage and snack of choice before starting the ending, it's a bit of a haul. The final confrontation throws everything at you and then some as you go one-man army on the campaigner's final reserve of troops inside this ancient temple turned garrison. There's one last new enemy here, these weak robots that I think the sole purpose of is to pad out the enemy encounters in this last level with something that doesn't take a bunch of ammo to bring down. Now is the time when you can disregard the previous rule about conserving ammo where possible. If you're using your rifle, non-explosive shotgun shells, or pistol, you're wasting your time. There's plenty of ammo in this final gauntlet, and I never felt like I was undersupplied. Design-wise, this is another big, windy environment similar to those dud middle game levels, but I don't hate it nearly as much. The different sections of the temple complex are varied in look and aesthetic, and there's a sense of progression as you plunge deeper and deeper, the natural stone and wood giving way to cold metal and electric arcs. I'm basically maining the grenade and quad rocket launchers now, because every room contains at least 2 or 3 heavy enemies supported by mid-tier enemies. We've come a long way from being able to clear an entire encounter with just the knife. There's a catharsis to this whole thing though. There's no more keys to find, so you don't have to worry about anything other than ripping through everything in front of you. Time to make these interdimensional bastards remember my name. The level and the game end with a boss fight double feature. First up, well, what dinosaur have we been missing through this whole thing? Come on, you knew it was coming. Given the business with everything you get a full restock after this. Killing the cyborg Rex gives me the last Chronoceptor piece, which then tessellate themselves into the weapon. There's only 3 shots and no extra ammo, so don't fat finger the fire button before you pass through the campaigner's postmodern art hallway into the final teleporter. This time around, I wondered what would happen if you tried to fight him without the Chronoceptor. I never attempted it before. Long story short, you just have to shoot him a whole lot more. The ammo pickups in the arena respawn on very short timers, so I'm never lacking for explosives to pelt him with. If you actually use the scepter, the fight follows the same painkiller hold S and fire strategy, you just have to do it a lot less because nailing the campaigner with all 3 scepter shots takes out about 2/3 of his health bar. Either way, it's the same conclusion. Talset maintains his tooth-grinding grimace all the way through a Metroid-style escape the base cutscene, and that's the ballgame. Aside from that middle third slog, I still have a lot of love for this game, for its weird quirks and product of its time quality. Go buy the Night Dive release on your platform of choice and support them, they do good work. Night Dive also released ports of Turok's 2 sequels, Seeds of Evil and Shadow of Oblivion. The former I've played before, the latter I haven't. I'll definitely take a look at both down the line. Especially Seeds of Evil, because there's a weapon in that game that, well, if you don't know, here's a hint.